One thing that I had trouble loving and accepting myself for is the way that I think. I go into these what if scenarios, negative thought patterns, and I end up wasting hours just in my head going back and forth on a decision that after someone points out it doesn't have much long-term consequences each way, and then I beat myself up over why did I waste so much time on that decision. Some of that has led to some paranoia about certain actions or just feeling so overwhelmed. But now I am doing better about loving and accepting that part of myself. I see the upsides of it, that it means I'm able to see it in a more positive way. It means that I'm a careful person. I look over my choices, and sometimes I save myself from a really bad situation by thinking it through. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but it was something that I'm working through, and I think I'm starting to get a hold on it. So I had a lot of problems accepting myself and loving myself for my sweet tooth. I always turned to ice cream or chocolate when I was feeling bad and didn't really know how to process my emotions in a better way. And so I would just gorge myself and eat until my stomach was bursting, filled with lots of unhealthy foods, those comfort foods that just slide down your throat. And it's really been a journey. My gosh, my whole life, 20 years probably, since I was 10, of realizing that I emotionally ate and trying to find a way to manage it. And before, when I completely didn't accept it, it was this battle and I was always counting calories and it was so crazy. But now I just allow it. I'm like, everyone has their ways to cope, and who's to say what's healthy, what's not, as long as we do it in moderation. So now I allow myself to indulge in a little treat here and then, now and then, and don't beat myself up over it. And I know the next day is always a chance to start fresh.
For much of my life, I have grown up walking around eggshells with my mother and some of my other family members and relatives because of their inability to control their anger and emotions. And as I progressed into my adolescent and adult years, I had a very bad habit of constantly comparing myself to other people, and this includes academics, exam scores, martial arts where people were a lot stronger than me, and pianists who were much more advanced than me, and this left me feeling inadequate and inferior. And that complex only got worse throughout college when I went to a very difficult and competitive university. And I've also been through two very bad breakups where I interpreted it as someone essentially replacing me to be with someone else. And because of the low self-esteem that I've harbored for much of my life, and because of how absolutely anxious and miserable I was, that was when I realized that I needed to have love come from myself and not from the people around me. So I enrolled myself in a life coach program to finally let my demons go and be who I wanted to become. And while I'm far from perfect, I'm definitely miles ahead from where I've started, and I feel that I've truly learned to love myself and accept myself for who I am.
I want to accept myself for the urge of wanting to look good, to really caring about what everybody thinks of me, what I say, what I look like, all the stuff that goes with being me, the identity me. And I want to accept myself for, just from the very beginning, just being born in a country that dealt with civil war. And I want to accept myself for being an immigrant very early in my life. I want to accept myself for being born a girl. I've always wanted to be free and do everything that boys got to do where I was born. Never got to do that, or got to do some of that stuff. And I want to accept myself for being born a woman. I want to accept myself for being 5'2". I've always wanted to be taller, but I want to accept myself for being 5'2". I want to accept myself for having curly hair when I find that it just like takes a lot of time to deal with my hair. And I'm just getting present to this, that I want to accept myself for having first world problems, problems that are not real, true problems. I want to accept myself for not getting into dental school the first time that I applied. I think the second time as well. I'm not sure. I might have gotten in on the third time. I want to accept myself for being hard on myself. I can be quite hard on myself, and I want to accept myself for that. I want to accept myself for not working out every day. I want to accept myself for being exactly where I am, exactly with the people that I am, and exactly doing what I'm doing right now. I want to accept this moment as the true gift that it is.
For the longest time, I had trouble getting out of bed in the morning. I would wake up and then immediately, in 3 seconds, I would start fearing that I wouldn't be able to get out of bed. And then I would be paralyzed in bed in anxiety, like wondering, when am I going to get up? No, I don't want to get up. And finally, after struggling like that for about 2 hours, I would get out of bed full of regret and self-loathe and just worthlessness. I would say to myself, I can't even get out of bed, and blame myself for being lazy, only to do it all over again the next day, and the next day, and the next day. I think I went through that phase for about 2 years, and I spent a lot of time and energy to look for solutions or methods to get myself up in the morning, but none of them worked, and then I would blame myself even more. Eventually, I realized it's because I didn't love myself enough. I was criticizing myself all the time, and that had an effect of paralyzing my actions. I realized I had trouble getting out of bed because I thought I was useless and powerless and worthless. And that was really hurting my self-confidence and causing a lot of fear and anxiety. Subconsciously, I thought to myself that I was not physically or emotionally strong enough to take on the day. And of course, I would want to stay in bed for as long as I can because of that. Very slowly, I started working on acknowledging myself for everything I did right instead of blaming myself for everything I did wrong. Slowly, I had more energy and I became more motivated because I had less energy being sucked away by self-criticism and self-blame. And I also started working on realizing that I am smart and capable, that everyone fails. Just because I fail a few times doesn't mean I'm stupid. The difference is that other people keep trying after failing, versus I would criticize myself and then give up because I thought I was stupid and that there was no more point in trying. I would say it's been about 1.5 years since I first started accepting myself, and the results are slowly showing up. I definitely feel more motivated and capable than before. I'm still working on it, but my life has improved a lot.
I have really lofty goals in my life, and oftentimes I get really frustrated with myself that I'm not able to attain those goals overnight and that they don't just materialize overnight. And I allow this to put me into kind of a depressive funk where I get really shut down and I'm not able to get any work done towards these goals. So if I really loved myself, I would accept that I'm not perfect and that it just takes effort every single day to get to where I want to go, and that that's not going to happen overnight. And I would be patient with myself and with my process of getting there, and I would also enjoy the process as well.
Hi there, my name is Sara, and something that I have grown to love and accept about myself that I didn't always was what some people might call being overly emotional. This is something that I was told a lot about as a child, that I was being overly emotional in reaction to things happening in my life. And now I not only accept it and love it in myself, I consider it to be a superpower. And it is something that I love about myself. I have an incredible ability to feel joy and love and gratitude in like a really deep way. It also means that I feel grief and pain and sadness deeply too, which also means that I have a really great ability at letting those things pass through me and getting over them, as in not holding on to them and finding them years later creeping up on me, realizing, oh, I never actually dealt with that emotion. So I'm really proud of that in myself. I'm proud that I've come to realize what a great gift I have in feeling emotions incredibly deeply.
The times that I find most difficult to bring more acceptance and love to myself are right after I've had a difficult conversation around a difficult topic that maybe people usually avoid, but I've gone in there and been brave and said what needed to be said. I carry those conversations with me everywhere, thinking I might have screwed up or hurt someone's feelings or could have said something better. But I want to declare to you that I accept what was said and I accept what wasn't said because I love myself. And the reason why I deserve love in those moments is because I know I'm doing my best. And that's all I can do in any given moment.
Sometimes I struggle with my creativity, and so instead of busting through that resistance, I end up spending way too much time on this game on my phone called that is kind of my distraction, but then it ends up turning into 30 minutes and then an hour and then an hour and a half. And that I realize is me not loving myself. So I put a limit on how long I can be on that game to make sure that I'm doing what I have to do.
When I was about 3 years old, and I was in preschool, I started developing anxiety and probably social anxiety. At lunch one time, we were sitting around the lunch table and I didn't want to eat my bread crusts. So I threw them under the table and I hoped no one would notice. Lo and behold, my favorite preschool teacher caught me and told me that I'm such a bad girl for doing that, and she yelled at me to clean it up all by myself and then go and sit in the corner by myself for the rest of the period. For some reason that really hit me and hurt me, and I was picking up the bread under the table feeling sorry for myself, like I made up that nobody cared about me. And from then on, if I was confronted about anything ever, I would just break down and shut down and tell myself that I'm so bad. I just wasn't able to be confronted by anything anymore. I would just shut down. And I just started to live my life that way, even up until around now. I ended up being a people pleaser, making sure that I would never do anything wrong, which created a lot more stress and anxiety for me. So this is something that I'm just beginning to overcome and see the patterns of where this began and how it all happened in my childhood. Once I went back and saw how I can actually take responsibility for my actions now rather than living from shutting down and being a victim when I'm confronted by anything, I can actually go forth powerfully in life and own up to the things that I'm doing rather than keeping quiet about it. I can see now that it's always been me who makes the choice on how I get to live. And even if I live with social anxiety, I still get to choose how my life goes powerfully by owning up to the things and knowing that I'm always doing my best, and I'm actually out here to inspire people. I don't see confrontation as a bad thing. I see it as something that can be resolved and can be communicated about. Just remembering that who I am is important, and who I am is to make a difference in people's lives.
Hi, my name's Heidi and I'm a musician. But just using that word to describe myself is just really strange. Really awkward, sounds funny to me. Anybody who's ever known me would call me a musician. The first time I performed in front of people, I was 3 years old. Music has always been a part of my life. But when I was a teenager, I was in the Salt Lake Children's Choir, and we performed a nationally televised Christmas concert with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, and they chose me to do the solo. And it scared me so much that I ran away from being on stage for the next 20 years. I wasn't pretty enough, I wasn't talented enough, I wasn't skinny enough. I just convinced myself that some of the best choral performers in the world had made the wrong decision. And so I didn't perform music for a very long time after that. About 20 years later, I was sort of forced into a position where I had to start singing again. And it wasn't very long before people started asking me to perform on stage. This time I told myself I wasn't going to allow that negative self-talk to keep me from having those opportunities again. So I grabbed my guitar and I started playing and singing in front of people. It took me a couple years after that really to start calling myself a musician, and I still have waves of self-doubt and accepting that I'm good enough to be on stage. Many, many times I hear that little voice telling me I should move over and let the real musicians perform. But I've been able to push through that, and I've been learning to quiet that self-criticism and accept my ability enough to actually tell you all that yes, I am a musician.
Even though I'm far from perfect and I haven't got everything figured out yet, I still choose to deeply and completely love and accept myself. I'm in my mid-20s. I'm still living with my parents. I haven't moved out yet. There's no guarantee if I can make all of the mortgage payments for the next 2 years. I'm not truly independent yet as an adult. Yet I still choose to love myself. I'm still depressed. There's many days I feel numb and unmotivated, and it makes me question whether I should keep going as a life coach. Yet I still choose to love myself. There's times I procrastinate. There's times I don't face up to my fears or let them drag on too long. There's times that I've disappointed and hurt people in my life. And with a friend that I had really hurt in the last 2 or 3 months, who rejected me, and all the trauma that left behind, and all that, the huge blow to my self-confidence that left behind, I still choose to deeply love myself. And in fact, this is the time more than ever that I need to love myself, that I need love from myself, not further judgment, not further fighting, struggling, whatnot, but to just love myself. And that is my message to you. Thank you.
I work in tech where the accelerated path is idealized, which didn't faze me after spending all my days and most of my nights in high school studying for AP classes. But the more I narrowed my tunnel vision, the better I looked on paper and the more lost I felt on the inside. I've realized I'm a big picture thinker, which is valuable fuel for innovation, even if people don't always see it right away. So I'm giving myself permission to explore the world and myself and love it.
My name's Kirk. I'm a cancer patient. I've had testicular cancer twice, lost both of my testicles, and the cancer then spread to a lymph node near my groin, and then I had to suffer through a very, very tough round of chemotherapy. I think that self-love is a series of actions that you take in order to secure a happier self in the future. It's the reason that even though I'm a very tired person from chemotherapy, and I mean really tired. Like, chemotherapy really kicked my ass bad, and I do not have any energy left. But it's the reason that I'm up at 4 a.m. headed out to do a very difficult job of snow shoveling through Canadian winter. It's a back-breaking job, and it's very difficult, and not many people want to do it, but its strength was my strength before I got sick. What I mean by that, and when I say that it's a series of actions that you take in order to secure a better future for yourself, it's waking up every day even though you're in pain, and going out and doing a job that you don't want to do because you want better for yourself. I could easily settle for CERB, which is a government fund that people are getting very easily right now because of the COVID pandemic, and I'm choosing not to take that money because I know that I can do better for myself with a little bit of effort, which is actually a lot of effort, but I know that I can do better for myself, for my future, by setting myself up better financially now and not having those financial struggles. So I endure the pain, I go out and I give it my all, and I do better for my family. I make a little bit more money than I would if I were to just settle for a little bit of government money. I could easily take that. I've thought about it a few times, and then I think to myself, no, future self would not appreciate that decision. And I practice self-love, and I endure a little bit more, and I go out and I produce more for myself and for my family. And part of it is because I'm gonna die one day. There's a good chance it'll be from cancer. I mean, it's spread 3 times now I've been diagnosed, and I know I'm not gonna live forever, and I want to be remembered as a man who was tough. I know I'm frail, I'm a human, and I'm physically breaking down a little bit more every day, but I want to be remembered as somebody who sacrificed himself for the betterment of his family, and I want to be somebody that people are proud of, and I want to be proud of myself. So I'm ensuring better self-emotion in the way that I feel about myself in the future by putting in a little bit extra now and working hard. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. God bless you guys. I hope everybody has a really good day. Stay safe, and I love you. Take care.